This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by Paraswap. You'll hear more about them later on in this episode. What is up, everyone? I am Charlie Shrem, and you are listening and watching another awesome edition of Untold Stories, where twice a week together we get to dive deep and understand as deep as you can go. If we need to pull out white papers, we're doing it to really understand how this movement came to be, where we are right now in the larger scheme of things. Is this the AOL moments? Is this the pre, the post, where we first base, last base, first inning, second half? Where are we right now in the larger scheme of things? Or are we part of a larger societal shift? Are we just our own thing, that we're doing our own thing? Are we kind of leading that monetary evolution? Because a lot of people say hey, before crypto and Bitcoin, we didn't really use Venmo much. So if it wasn't for that. So how does it all kind of fall into place right now? And where we're going on in the future, guys. Happy holidays. Happy New Year's. 2021 was a phenomenal year. I know that for so many people, there were so many, myself included, there was so much negative, but at the same time, positive. And I think the gratitude that I want to have going into 2022 is to make sure I remember, just focus on the positives. In the future, when my wife and I are old, sitting on the rocking chair, we're going to be remembering all of the exciting things that happened and not the stressful things that got us to that point. And I think that's something that I'm always trying to remember as we're getting into New Year's. I want to give a special thanks as my honor, Brian Norton. You're the Chief Operating Officer at MyEtherWallet, one of the OG companies in the whole crypto space. You guys are the backbones of Ethereum. You think of MyEtherWallet, you think of Ethereum together. It's like one in one. And eventually, I'm sure interoperability is a big thing. Thank you so much for coming on Untold Stories, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and thanks for having me.
It's kind of I know that the end of the year, the new year, it's all symbolic. Holidays are for seasons, pre-religion, but I like to attach to them because humanity, we like tradition. We find comfort in tradition, and it's nice.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that as superstitious as you don't want to be, as pragmatic and logical as you want to be, you're denying part of yourself if you don't if you don't take these kinds of moments to reflect. They're ready made. We just passed the shortest day of the year, and I was like, why am I so tired? Why am I so tired? Why, despite my laundry list of things to do, am I laying here on the couch working on from my phone, because it's all I can do? And there's a reason why we take these kinds of steps back. So.
Sometimes I feel like I spend more time working on my to-do lists than I actually am doing the things on the list itself.
That's why I leveled it off at 5. Nothing there's never more than 5 things on my to-do list, because
that's really smart. And I've been trying to also at the same time, keep my emails down to a specific, but then there are things that, take a lot of time. Reorganizing life, the 5 spokes of life, like health. Like you said, if we don't focus on, I forget that all 5 spokes, I should look it up because I'm always referencing them and people want to know. So I'm going to pull it up right here. I keep forgetting that this is an edited show, so I can just.
You could just do it. You can do it.
Yeah. Here, okay. So these are the 5 spokes. This guy does 7. Mm-hmm. So you think of our lives like the spoke of a wheel of a bicycle, and if one spoke is too long or too short on that, then the chain falls off. So you have work, family, partner, spirituality, friends, external contacts, and self-view. That's stupid. I do spirituality. I don't like religion because I think spirituality is kind of above religion. So, religion can be under that if that's what your thing is. And then you have friends and family. You have work, you have community, and you have self, and then you have money. And so you can't forget about sometimes we feel dirty focusing on money when we have to focus on our family. But if you focus too much on family, you have no money to take care of your family. But if you have too much money, so it's everything, it's all about balance. And honestly, my personal crypto views over time have always had this common balance thread. So I've never went maximalist one way, but I've never gone full anti anything the other way. And so you always have to kind of maintain a balanced view. interoperability. You're not going to say that one is the only one that's always going to be the most successful one. It's not the right way. You don't know. So we're in this like multi blockchain world right now, right? When MyEtherWallet was launched, like I'm going to say almost a decade ago, but like 6-7 years ago, it was really like a Bitcoin and Ethereum world. And most people thought, including a lot of, I don't know, Ethereumites or whatever we call ourselves, that it would be like, that's what the world would look like. You'd have like the Bitcoin, you'd have the digital gold or the money for the long term, or the commodity, the hedge against the world. And then you have the smart contract, Ethereum virtual machine. But now we're in this like huge multi blockchain world that we're in right now. You have Algorands, and you have the Caspers, and you have the Polka Dots, and you have all these different blockchains that people are working on. And then at the same time, my friend the other day asked me, and he's reading a book about NFTs. So he's asking me some great questions. And he said, Charlie, Ethereum has some very high fees right now. And it seems like people are using all of these other blockchains because of Ethereum's high fees. So my immediate thought was the same conversation that people were having against Bitcoin back in 2015 and 2016. And my immediate response was don't ever think that technological innovation can't keep up to speed with demand. It's just a little bit slower. And I said, don't, count Ethereum out in that respect. Do you see Ethereum about to go through like a massive wave of technological innovation that's going to really like bring it to the next level? I mean, we're talking about Ethereum 2.0, proof of stake, this whole next level.
Yeah, I think that in the multi-blockchain world that we're currently seeing ourselves move into, we're necessarily going through those growing pains. One of the things that Ethereum really does have going for it is that it has grown into the largest publicly owned open source smart contract platform in the world. And that's a huge accomplishment.
By a huge margin too, like by a huge amount. It's not fair to compare the bigger ones and the smaller ones. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's certainly not. They're not on the same level, and they don't serve the same function really at this point. So a lot of the newer blockchains, even and the EVM, other EVM compatible blockchains, newer blockchains like Polkadot, Polkadot is aspiring to grow into that sort of standard sort of smart contract platform, a blockchain with blockchains. But right now, where we are is Ethereum is the gold standard for innovation. Has become the gold standard of innovation in the smart contract space, and it's publicly owned. There's no CEO of Ethereum. It's open source. You can still get in. It just costs a lot more than it did
for now, though.
Yeah, in 2018, and so 2018, even 2019. So now where we are is this, like we've anticipated these problems. Moving towards ETH 2.0 is going to be a real monumental shift in both controlling fees, environmental impact, while attempting to maintain that core ethos of being publicly owned and operated, governed by the community. And obviously, I'm really excited. I would say I'm more than optimistic. I really do believe that this is going to be sort of a watershed moment for not only Ethereum, but crypto in general, where we see ourselves moving into this sort of new era of innovation and smart contract development and new use cases being developed by these decentralized communities.
So do you think that it's almost a way to have decentralization and distribution is not something that happens on day one. And to actually try to launch your blockchain or mainnet, out of the box, fully decentralized and distributed on day one is almost an impossible feat. So here you have over, from 2015 or whatever it was until whenever Ethereum moves over to proof of stake, that time is when Ethereum had to deal with a lot of the stress tests that other financial institutions also go through, like the Great Recession or whatever that happened in 2009, and all these banks failed or whatever. Ethereum had to go through things like with the DAO and how do you deal with stuff. And then time is the biggest validation for any blockchain for its existence. The blockchain has grown. More people are using it, the Ethereum blockchain, since it's year over year over year. And it's gotten so big that you as a company, MyEtherWallet, don't have to focus like most other companies are focusing on servicing all chains. You guys are really diving back into it to offer a huge suite of products for the Ethereum blockchain itself. And we need that because most NFTs, most smart contracts, almost everything is happening still on Ethereum and probably will, because people are going to go to the best chain that has the best user interfaces, the most decentralized and distributed. But at the same time, most of these new ones are only been around for a year or less. I'm not going to put massive amounts of, I think it's very risky. Like, I think that even right now, as Ethereum passes its 5, 6, 7 year mark of existence, 8-year mark, that's when a lot of external capital will finally feel like, hey, we can now build on it, because things need to exist for 5 or 6 years.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I want to go back to something you said before, where you said, coming out of the box to fully decentralized is almost impossible. I don't think it's almost. It is impossible. Yeah. And one of the things I like to point out to people is, like, in the middle of the word decentralization is the word central. It's right there. It's inextricable. There is always going to be some degree of centralization. The process of decentralization is never quite finished. You can always sort of like take extra steps to increase autonomy, to increase reliance on third parties, but you're never done. The work doesn't get done. What you need is a network that is able to scale with those new use cases to further that process. And I think that Ethereum is currently the furthest along in the smart contract space on that spectrum. As far as the way we kind of see ourselves, ourselves is we take Ethereum as sort of the base layer of everything that we try to do. If it works on Ethereum, then we can look to support it on other EVM compatible chains. We can give that functionality to our users actually pretty easily, but it needs to be validated on Ethereum. These use cases need to be validated on Ethereum first, for all the reasons that you're saying. That that innovation, that the innovation that's coming through on these other blockchains are great, but they are innovations. They are risks, and we are still an entry point. Like, Mu is still an entry point for new users coming into this space, and we want to make sure that what we're supporting is not going to put our users at undue risks. But while still allowing them to maintain their autonomy. Like, the idea being, if it works on Ethereum, you can use Mu with it. As you move out from Ethereum, we have to sort of make decisions about what we can and can't support.
Oh, that's interesting. So then how are you seeing people want to interface with other blockchains while they're using Mu, or is it something that it's like an all-encompassing system right now?
There is a higher a higher amount of demand than we'd seen previously, and it's particularly for layer 2 solutions. People want to use Polygon, for example, just to mitigate fees for straight value transfers.
Sure.
It makes a lot of sense. They understand. We try to educate users on exactly what that means, what that's going to mean for them, like that Polygon isn't as decentralized
Where do you
as
start?
Ethereum. There are trade-offs here, but um, ultimately, like if what you're looking to do is save money on transfers, this is an option we're making available to you.
So we're heading to a multi-chain world where certain things have certain trade-offs for other things. So for example, you may use, in your example, Polygon for immediate value transfer, but at the end of the day, if you're wanting to build like a multi-dimensional, highly throughput, huge amount of capital intensive smart contract that can operate like flood insurance or something like that, then you're going to
Mm.
want to use like the best compatible virtual machine and platform, and that's Ethereum by far. I think that trend that moving over to this Ethereum like 2.0 is this big elephant in the room. And can you talk about, is this something that's kind of set in stone? Are people making a bigger deal out of it than it is? And is there like a small kind of group of people that still kind of make the decisions on things like this, or is it hard baked into the code and it's ready to go?
Um, I think that's a good question. I think that I think that the sentiment amongst the greater Ethereum community is that this is something that needs to happen. The move to proof of stake needs to happen. For some of the reasons we've touched on: high fees, environmental impact. In order for Ethereum to remain sustainable, and also
Yep.
participation in the network becoming attainable, um, the more people you price out, the less decentralized you become, because the less network participants there are. And so we do have a responsibility as a community to grow our community. And I think that's one of the core problems that ETH 2.0 is trying to solve. As to whether or not this this move is an inevitability,
Sure.
I would say that nothing is promised. But I think that, like, in terms of community sentiment, we all know that this needs to happen.
Yeah.
Um, something has to change, and the network does have to evolve. There'll be detractors, of course, and I have some suspicions that I feel like there will be, um, you know, ETH
Maybe more change.
1.0 will
Yeah.
probably continue on.
Yeah.
But I think that Ethereum 2.0 is the future.
Yes,
Mm.
because to be able to do like less than 1 second block times where that block is distributed across millions of stakeholders in real time, the only way to do it really is through proof of stake in that sense. And that's what Ethereum wants to be. Ethereum wants
Mhm.
to be that just like smart contract rail for the world. And really, at this point, we're not talking about like money or value or proof of work or environmental stuff anymore. Those
Mm.
conversations are all kind of like red herring stuff. It's more like, hey, to do what we want to do, it needs to live in a system where it's just a lot faster and we're not relying on on solving proof of work algorithms where the difficulty is set to be a certain speed at that point for security reasons in and of itself. That's just a different type of blockchains. We're entering the world where we need different blockchains to be better at certain things. And then we need those chains to work with each other in a decentralized way where you don't have to have trade-offs when you're jumping from one chain to another. That's my view. How do we get there? I don't know.
No, and I think that's going to be an open question, and we're going to see the nature of this conversation evolve, particularly after the merge, after 2.0, up to 2.0 is out in the world. We're going to see, and particularly as traditional finance and DeFi start moving closer together, and more players, more complex payment systems that require that level of throughput start really entering the space in force. Because it's never going to be done. Like after the merge, that's chapter one of the of the next book in Ethereum's in the Ethereum saga. It's not the end of the story by any stretch of the imagination. And so you're right, like a multi-chain world is an inevitability. And I think what Ethereum, what we as us working in Ethereum really want to see is Ethereum being able to serve as the base layer through which all of those chains interact, creating those rails for people to build on top of. And through the dApp game, it's already become that. It has already historically been that. And now this is just taking the next logical step.
Sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled programming, but I wanted to tell you guys that if you're using PancakeSwap, Uniswap, DYDX, SushiSwap, you're doing it wrong. You need to be using Paraswap, because Paraswap is a user interface, a decentralized smart contract platform that sits on top of all of these. And when you go to Paraswap or untoldstories.link/Paraswap, because they're refunding your gas, if you go there, then you'll be able to, on top of Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon, look for the best prices for your tokens and swap and do everything in one predefined transaction on chain. Instead of having to do the approval to this token, to that token, to do all these different things, Paraswap does it all for you. It's decentralized. They just released their API version 5 that you can see everything. It's all open source. Very cool stuff. untoldstories.link/Paraswap. If you're using any of the other decentralized protocols, you're doing it wrong, because you need to be using the routing, beautiful Paraswap routing system, and it's fully decentralized too. It's gorgeous. I'll talk to you guys soon. You had dApps and DAOs were like the first time that terminology was used. Was dApps and DAOs were really when Ethereum was launched, because we looked forward to this world of being able to have decentralized applications, dApps, and then you have decentralized autonomous organizations and DAOs. And we looked at them as these maybe quasi-governmental or corporate tokenized bodies, etc. I feel like all of crypto, we're always looking through a finance lens. Mm-hmm. And I feel like not speaking for everyone, I missed the coming of Ethereum as becoming this cultural asset layer. You know what I mean? For NFTs and status. I didn't see this. I didn't know this was going to happen. I was looking the other way, and I'm the first one to admit when I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, I remember doing an interview where I was on a panel, I should say. I was on a panel, and I said something along the lines of, well, I see Ethereum and blockchain in general, but Ethereum in particular, as being a social and cultural movement. And I was immediately shut down by somebody who was talking about, who was like, well, I think that's very pie in the sky and utopian, and that's nice, but, and they went on about how much value is going to be locked and how much, how many payments are going to be settled. And I feel by the with the rise of NFTs, we're starting to see just a glimpse of what I had always kind of hoped was we were going to see, which is a a an avenue for cultural connection and production outside of strictly finance, where we can see where these things sort of intersect. You talked earlier about the spokes of life, and putting more, like, being able to interact with more of those spokes on Ethereum, making those interactions more synergistic is what's really exciting to me about this space. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions, and I don't know that they're necessarily unearned. Crypto's reputation is somewhat a self-fulfilling prophecy amongst some people in the mainstream. The idea of crypto bros and Lambos, and that's what this is about, and it's about number go up. And there is a part of that, and we've seen that sort of play out over the last couple of years. But now what's emerging is sort of the beginnings of the promise. We're seeing like that the transactional relationships as being just a part of the greater scope of what Ethereums and blockchains can accomplish, and that is not strictly. It is not strictly a place for finance. It is a place where finance connects with all of these other parts of
so you have your community living. Family, health, it's all going to be on blockchains, whether an Ethereum wants to be that. And so I mean, I think we're starting to understand what that Web3 world actually looks like. And maybe it's where it's like the 5 or 7 spokes or whatever. I remember it would be 5 spokes. I don't know, this person on the internet did 7. I'm gonna figure out.
I've seen 5, I've seen 6, and now I've seen 7. I like the 6 one. I found one that says play, and I think that one's really important.
I found my spokes. I finally found the spokes. The 5 spokes of life. Family. Okay, is 1. Finances, fitness, friends, and faith. The 5 F's. Everything falls within those. So faith is spirituality. Friends is external, not family, so relationships. So you have family relationships, not family. Fitness is your health. You got to keep your health. Family, it's great, very important. So when you move those spokes maybe to this world, that's what the Web3 looks like.
I think that's what it can be. And I think that's what we're working towards. And also explorations for the possibility about how we can amplify those parts of our lives. It's not simply this capitalistic pursuit. That it encompasses much more than that, and it allows us to work with other types of models for living on an opt-in basis, and that's just not something that has existed before in the world. We haven't been able to. One of the things that I've always been excited about is the idea of like different economic models as culture, like as a means of like social interaction. It's not like you can just participate where you live.
No, you can't.
In a co-op sort of system around the world, but you can now. Like, we're getting to that point where like blockchains are able to facilitate that, and so you can actually start experimenting with the kind of governmental models, the kind of economic models that you were always interested in.
So you gave me an idea, because I've written extensively on the black markets and economic how how the economic systems work inside federal prisons, and through mackerel tins and mackerel coin, and you have the inter-prison exchange system, you have the intra-prison exchange system, and you have inflation, deflation, crazy stuff. You have debasement of the intra-prison currency system. I've written like 10,000 words plus on this. I've always liked the idea of putting together some sort of like metaverse game where people can be inmates and experience that economic system that I kind of went through. And that's actually a really cool idea now that I think. I probably shouldn't be talking about it on my podcast because someone's going to take the idea, but I don't care. It sounds like it sounds really cool to do though.
I mean, I think I think that would be really cool to do. And I also think that like those kinds of that kind of gaming experience would create a degree of understanding and empathy for people who live that system that so much of the population isn't currently able to access. They do not have if you don't have I don't have firsthand experience living in that type of economic system.
Yeah.
And allowing somebody exposure to that, like yeah,
you'd have to you'd be a potential inmate, and you'd only be allowed to spend a certain amount of money a month at commissary. So you have to figure out how to live, and then you'd have to earn that money if you didn't have external people sending you, and then you'd have to figure out how to access the markets where you can buy things on non-commissary days. And then you have to figure out how to, pay people for haircuts and personal training. You have to figure out who to stay away from and how to avoid. You have to know how to stay under the radar, how to shut your mouth. But at the same time, you have to live an economic life with people. And so there's like this whole nother world of like religion mashups and things like that. It would be cool to do for an NFT type of game, but yeah.
I would play it.
Yeah, I know. I would play too. I think a lot of people too. And I think I would build that on Ethereum because you'd want to I'd have the most amount of intricacies. And I'd want to be on a platform that allows for not just within the smart contract language itself to have like different attributes or different if this, then that type of interactions within the intelligence or within the characters of the metaverse, for example. But at the same time, I need to make sure you have MyEtherWallet and other suites of tools that my grandpa can come in and play the game, which he'll want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that Ethereum, besides just like a strong developer community, one of the things that Ethereum has to offer is like, we've done this. We built the infrastructure for these things. We built these user onboarding tools. One of the things that we kind of get from other blockchains a lot is and this has been going on for years, since as long as I've been with Mu, the idea is like, well, can you support our blockchain? Can you support can you bring wallet support? Because there's to a certain extent, particularly for a new blockchain, it's a little bit of a thankless job. You don't you're adding the support, and there's if there's not a lot of volume, there's not an easy way of monetizing it. It's it can be pretty rough. So people want these sort of established user experiences to help people usher them in. And one of the reasons we kind of stuck with Ethereum is because it's like, well, to a certain extent, we kind of had our hands full, making sure that our users can support all of the emerging use cases that are just happening on Ethereum, in particular on Ethereum proper. And when you add in the number of layer 2 solutions that are emerging right now, there is definitely there right now, just on Ethereum, there are enough tools to handle virtually any all of these emerging use cases in a way that there probably isn't in other blockchains at this moment.
Yeah, it's in fact when you are when someone is launching a new blockchain, because I've invested in new platforms that have launched, I've advised them to, you kind of see in the chats that they're saying we need to make sure we have, everything that Ethereum has, we need to make sure we have out of the box. So it's like, if you're that chain that other people are making sure that when they launch, they're like even at a perception of your level, then you're in the right space. And I want to go back to something that you just said too about the spokes. And I want to bring this into opportunity. This is not a capitalistic endeavor only, but at the same time, because if we look at the 5 spokes in the Web3, we've only built a little bit on one of those spokes. So you have 4.5 and 4 and change, as the crow flies or whatever, left that you can build on. That's how early we are right now. So
absolutely.
There are amazing capitalistic endeavors. And what you said is the best thing ever. Right now, we're in the industry where you can build things just for exploratory. We're just exploring, figure out R&D. You get paid to think. I get paid to talk. How cool is that? I mean, what's the world that we're living in right now? And so going into 2022, a lot of OGs, people have been in the space to kind of like look at, if you do get into like a potential, not bear market, but just range bouncing for 6 months or a year, that gives a lot of people relief, like myself. But at the same time, those who've only been in the space where it's like number go up, what advice would you have for those people who may go through like 6 months or a year of non-number go up, but they want to build and grow and do a lot of things in the space?
I mean, I think that I mean, my first advice was do it. Just do it. I understand and I empathize with a lot of people right now. Sure. Like, if you came in at the top, like it might be rough going, but I don't think that I don't think we're going to see the kind of depths we saw just a few years ago. I mean, I remember when Ethereum dropped to $100, and some people thought that they were like that. Some people were literally talking about how it was over, and those of us who had been in the space for a minute knew it wasn't. Like, we're still just beginning.
We've only just begun.
Yeah,
I love the Carpenters.
And then that's when you kind of get to, where you kind of get into faith, not necessarily in the technology per se, or the market necessarily, but in the vision and what we're building here. Like, what is the end goal here? It's to decentralize the internet and bring a richer experience for our community, for ourselves and our communities, in a way, creating an internet that isn't extractive, but that is fulfilling, that we have a stake in, that that creates avenues for where we can live our best lives. And if that's what you're working towards, and you believe in that vision, then build it.
Are you guys hiring?
We are, like,
always. Everyone's always hiring.
Yes. There's a permanent "we're hiring" sign hanging in our proverbial window.
That's amazing. That's really beautiful. And so I really want to thank you for taking the time and talking about this. We've given me a lot of reflection too. I forgot about the spokes a little bit, so I'm going to be thinking about it over the next few days. I hope the listeners enjoyed the show and think about those spokes as you go into the new year. Remember what's important. Time is the only finite resource. We're trying to earn money to be more time rich, not be time poor to make ourselves more money rich. So we only have 20. We should be like our currency should be time units, like 24 time units in the day times how many days, whatever the seconds, whatever, like that's the finite, currency right there. That's the finite commodity. That's the finite resource. It's time. Because once the roller coaster's over, it's done. We got to enjoy every freaking second of it and make sure that we are the happiest people that we can be. And yeah, that's what I love about life. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. I'm very excited for the new year, and I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here. Happy New Year.